Hello out there. Welcome to Eric Johnson and Aaron Thigpen, the brand and the source. This is Coach EJ, Eric Johnson, the brand.
And this is Coach Aaron, the source.
Aaron, today I was thinking about conversations we've been having the last 2 or 3 weeks as we get through, with the start of training for some sports and the continuation or the ending of training for some sports in the fall and the beginning of winter. I want to talk about this subject today, Aaron. I think is dear to our hearts. It's about betting on yourself in your training to get where you need to be at the next level. And it's really just believing in betting on yourself, believing in what you're doing. What's your take on that?
Yeah. I like this subject because it comes down to, I think, just your psyche, how you see yourself and what you're doing. And if you think what you're doing and what you have to offer to your sport has value, then you're going to lean on that and bet on yourself when things get tough. And it's going to help you through this process, because as athletes, we all run into adversity and struggles, and from the small things of not getting up and wanting to do, your push-ups every morning,
right,
to taking heavy losses, in a game or something like that, or making errors.
Mm-hmm.
But, again, I'm one of those who's always looking at the horizon, being a late bloomer myself, and
right,
kind of knowing that over time, you can win just by being in the game long enough. You know what I'm saying? Having that sort of
attitude. I do.
And I guess that's a way of saying betting on yourself, that good things can happen. I really feel that, if you're able to buy yourself time and stay in the game long enough, some good things can happen for you.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. What you said brought back some situations in my mind. One was, I'm thinking of this guy on the Dodgers of all teams, right? Here's a giant guy talking to you about a Dodger guy. But I look at a guy like Chris Taylor, who's a super utility player. And he plays left field, he plays shortstop, plays second base, plays center field, right field, third base, does all this. But he's that kind of guy that stays in the game, and he breeds confidence. This guy hit 3 home runs the other day in the 4th game of the Braves versus the Dodgers series, the 5th game, excuse me. And it just seems this guy keeps on getting better. It's kind of funny. If you stay in the game long enough and you bet on yourself, your confidence grows and you start to believe, hey, I really belong. Hey, I'm really that good. And it takes you to another level. And I tell players out there that are training, that are young, who are maybe late bloomers. And I think of a lot of these guys. Look, they're only, 1% or less than 1% that really get to the Hall of Fame or get to their Hall of Fame in their sport. But what about the other 99% of those players that are blossoming? Everybody's a late bloomer. At the end of the day, when you really think about it, everyone's a late bloomer. It's not that 1% or less 1%. Those guys are great. They're like Michael Jordan. They're Julius Erving. They're Carl Lewis of the, I'm just saying all these greats, Jesse Owens and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think of these guys as that less than 1% of that athlete in their sport that attain this high level greatness, but everybody else is a great athlete. They're just late bloomers compared to these Hall of Famers. So I think of that one thing, Aaron, is that we need to understand that. Second thing is that confidence that grows within an athlete as they keep staying in the game and they train. And I think of your facility, I really do. I think of game speed. And I see like a guy like Robert Stevenson, he's one of those guys. He's in the game and he's getting better. He's improving. And I keep on seeing these years in the big leagues add up.
Yeah.
I see a guy like that who is just getting better and keeps training and keeps staying in the game and keeps trying to figure out how to get better. And those guys end up having that 10 to 12 year career in the big leagues. And you think, wow, that guy played 10 or 12 years in the big leagues because he just kept on working in the dark.
Right. Yeah. No, he just came back yesterday. And we were talking, and he goes, yeah, Aaron, I didn't realize it, but my average went from 95 to 97 miles an hour this year. And so he had one of his best big league seasons this year. And, he struggled to try and find himself pitcher and his place. But, he just kept his head down, just kept checking in, kept going to work. And now I think he's on the other side of some of those things that it took for him to, either what you call them, adjustments or growing pains or whatever they were, I think he's on the other side of that, where he's really kind of turning the corner and going into, not newbie, not rookie, not an iffy, but I think he's starting to look like a veteran.
Solid big leaguer, right? Exactly. Solid big league player.
Yeah, and that took time. It took time. It took time for him to figure himself out, find the right fit, but he didn't question himself. He didn't question the process. We tweaked some things. He's added some other, new things, but he's stayed with what's worked with them and had that confidence in the process, and it's paying off for him. And I don't think a lot of athletes are willing to do that. They're quick to jump ship, they're quick to change, they're quick to quit, and give up sometimes. So now that we're talking about it, I guess he's definitely one of those guys who's, he's bet on himself and bet on his process and what he's doing, and it's working for him.
Aaron, this is his third big league team now. Is that correct? Am I thinking that this is his second, right? Second big league team, I'm sorry. And I think about all the student athletes we've had that have gone from maybe junior college to a 4-year school, and then they get drafted and they go forward. Or I think about those guys that were in high school and they were having trouble. Then they went to a 4-year school, had a little trouble, and then they grind it, and all of a sudden their junior and senior year, they're stars, and they go on further and they're advancing. I think it's just, training in the dark and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel if you believe in the process, which you said, if you believe in the process. And I think of another athlete I see around the complex, Mike. I'm going to call him Mike A. And I see this guy grinding. I know where he was when he was in 7th and 8th grade. And I see him now as a junior, and I see him getting better and better I see the confidence growing, and the confidence wouldn't have been there if he hadn't trained. If he hadn't trained, come into the facility and started really believing in himself and getting confident and gaining strength and gaining the speed and the agility and the body awareness. My goodness, I would have 4 years ago, I would have said this guy is probably not a shortstop, but now he's a shortstop because he vested in his process of training and he got better. So it's interesting to watch these guys who just stay in the grind and keep getting better. And it seems like, oh man, that guy's just okay. But at the end of the day, that player is legitimately making them a legitimate prospect in their sports because they stay into this training and betting on themselves. I think every athlete needs to bet on themselves and believe in the process that they believe in and have the right people around them that will feed them information that is consistent, truthful, and give them the confidence and the extra push to get them to that next step so they can believe in themselves too.
Yeah. I mean, being a former junior college coach, and we did talk about junior college on one of our podcasts. Junior college is, I think junior college is a viable choice
Right.
And I might have said this at that point too, but yeah, I like junior college athletes because, JC is bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Guys who are going to junior college are guys who are saying, hey, no, you know what? I can play. I may not, be ready right now for a D1, but I can play. I want to play, and I'm going to extend this so I can continue to give myself some opportunities. So, I think those guys, because it's easy to say, okay, after high school, nobody wants me.
Right.
But these guys are saying, no, I believe I can do it. So,
Right.
Junior college is bet on yourself, which is, I think, is good. And it happens for a lot of kids going to junior college.
I agree with you. I was looking through a lot of baseball rosters today, Aaron, early this morning, and I noticed at Division I, Division II, Division and a little bit at Division III, but I noticed how many junior college players these universities had. Yeah. Now I don't know if it's because of COVID and guys were jumping from one university to other, but I noticed how coaches were vested in these guys a little bit more, because I think of the 2 years of being mature, had playing high level junior college baseball, getting after it. It may have been easier for them to choose these guys because maybe high school guys weren't ready because of COVID.
Right.
It's not a bad option for guys. And I don't mean to get off subject here, but betting on yourself, like you said, JC is Bet on Yourself University. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to be an athlete that wants to get the next level and you're not ready, athletically, it may be a viable choice in a lot of regards. Some guys, financially can't go to a 4-year school and they're ready grade wise, but they need to go to junior college for a couple of years just to make things work for them financially, So there's many options there, but I agree with you. I think betting on yourself and believing in yourself is a prime way to really understand who you are as an athlete, and more players have to definitely do that.
Yeah, there's just a mental aspect that an athlete has to have. And also it's just a decision. You just say, hey, look, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to go after. It's like anything else in life.
Right.
You want to be a doctor, a lawyer,
right.
Astrophysicist. It all requires that same mindset. So, I think athletes have to have that, early on. One, you got to know what you want.
Right.
Two, you got to be able to go about it, not necessarily unapologetically in a bad way, but, I know some guys who are afraid to say, I'll ask sometimes, in my Top Gun class, how many guys want to be D1 pitchers? And you have some guys who go just like this immediately.
Right.
And you have some guys who are kind of like, To me, it's like, either you want it or you don't, because this is not going to get you there.
Right.
This is going to get you there. Mm-hmm. And so there's got to be a level of confidence and not feeling any shame or any, embarrassment about saying, hey, this is what I want.
Right.
Just in that example there, I know who the guys are who are going to go after it. So it's like, do you want to be, or are you willing to be?
Yeah, right.
Mentality. And even just that response, I think, says something to me.
Yeah.
I like kids, who come in and they're dreaming and they say, yeah, I want to be this, or I want to be an Olympian.
Right.
Because now I know, hey, this kid has no bones about telling the world what they want to do. So that means they're probably not thinking failure is an option. Kids who are doing this are thinking, well, failure is an option. So
yeah, I like that. I like that.
It's just something that I say, and then tell them, well, hey, why would you be in a class spending this money and devoting this time and resources if you don't want to be this guy?
Right.
Especially at that position.
Yeah.
If you're a quarterback, you gotta be that. because you're probably one of the most pivotal athletes on the field. So if you don't want to be a game changer, a difference maker, or what we call on track and field sometimes a hammer, then there's a certain mindset that comes along with that.
Yeah. That leads, right into that, goes back to what we said, you're betting on yourself. And those guys who raise their hand up high and are ready to go. It's interesting. Let me ask you this question, because I think this is pretty cool. A player comes in training, okay, with us, and, they're half in, half out. Then in the middle somewhere, they flip the switch.
Right.
And the guy goes, I'm all in.
Right. I
love those guys too. That go, I'm all in now, because they didn't understand what training was or where their body or mindset could go if they had this type of training. All of a sudden they go, hey, I'm all in. I'm ready to go. Yeah. I love those guys too, because they seem to never question where they're going anymore. And they really bet on themselves, and like you said, that's what it takes to be that next level, or I like to say elite athlete, is just a belief system. It goes back to Chris Taylor's story. Yeah. Here's a guy who was just trying to make the roster a few years back on the Dodgers, found his niche and embraced the ability to say, I'm not a shortstop anymore. I'm a super utility player. Check me out and I can do this, and I see more big leaguers like that. I look at Justin Turner, and I'm giving the examples of guys who I've seen who became this veteran player. But Justin Turner was scuffling early in his career with the Mets. He was playing first, third, left. And he wasn't really doing anything. He had one good year, then all of a sudden, bam, he just took off into this 30 home run, 100 RBI guy for about 5 years in a row, 6 years, and is doing his thing still. And you see players like this who seem to get better as age goes.
Yeah.
That was, you just see that. So I thought it was interesting. Bet on yourself, man. It's all about that, man. When you're an athlete, betting on yourself, believing what you're doing. No question.
I agree.
So,
be said.
Hey, with that said, hey, check us out. Check out, the brand and the source known as Eric Johnson and Aaron Thigpen, and in our podcast. Check out what we're doing. Aaron, what do you got to say about that, my man?
We've got, again, a good series that's going to launch later this year called Champions Are Built. We're talking to people in the sports industry, not just athletes and coaches, but people behind the scenes who have seen excellence, achieved their own excellence, been in that environment. And we're just trying to find out, hey, how do you get there? What have you done? What have you seen? And we want that information to go out to you, our viewers and listeners, and maybe it'll help you chart your path to success. So stay tuned for that.
All right, Aaron, it's been a great talk today. This is Coach EJ, the brand.
Coach Aaron, the source. We'll see you.